It all happened when I was age 14. I was practicing tennis every day. I went to the courts via the metro and returned home by the metro as well. I live in a part of the country where less crime happens. It was a normal routine. I went at 3 in the evening and returned after doing fitness around 9:30. Usually, I wouldn't get a seat on the metro, but on this particular day of winter, it was quite chilly, and I don't remember much, but the temperature was around 10 degrees, I think. It was 9:15 as I entered the nearest station to my courts. As expected, it was quite late. The metro was scheduled to be coming after another 5 minutes. I began looking around to only see 2 people other than me. I was a bit tired that day, as I did some extra fitness that night. I entered the metro to see no one except me in my compartment. As the train went further, I heard a distant cry for help though. It was not clear, but I made out the words, "Someone, please help." I didn't pay much attention to it though. I plugged in my headphones and just started relaxing. But out of the corner of my eye, I noticed some shuffling around the corner. I did not pay much attention all throughout, but I kept glancing towards the entry to my compartment. I could not see anything wrong on a public transport. But I was wrong. Suddenly, even through my headphones, I heard a loud scream. I was shaking. It was a woman's scream. I plugged out my headphones and looked towards the compartment's entry. 2 women, I noticed not from my country, were running and had trembling footsteps. They both came and sat down next to me. I asked whether everything was all right, and they said yes. I pictured one of them tripping over the door, for they had screamed. I again went to carefree mode. But after a minute or so, both of them asked me to help them. I asked how I could, or what or who caused the scream. Now I looked them in their eyes, and they were both crying. They told me their story. They were 2 foreigners who had booked a trip to my country. They had been there for only 2 days so far. But the day since they arrived, a stalker had been following them from a taxi they took. That day, they had gone to visit the most famous monument of our city. They, however, were late and reached the station at 9 in the evening. They told me that they were sitting in the woman's compartment when suddenly they noticed a man entering it. As you expected, it was the same taxi driver. He came slowly towards them and asked whether he could have a seat in broken English. They were a bit nervous, as no man should have been traveling in the woman's compartment, and also that most of the compartments were empty. He sat beside them and kept staring them down until one of them asked him to move away. He didn't understand though, and he just kept staring. They began to feel a bit uncomfortable. They motioned him to move away, but he didn't. Out of nowhere, he pulled out a knife and a rope. This caught the foreigners off guard, and they were scared. They tried to rush towards the exit, but the man overpowered them. He was trying to get them in his arms, but they carried pepper spray with them and used it with full power towards the stalker. He slashed one of the women's arms, but they ran away, only till they got to my compartment. When I heard this, I was at the same time scared, yet enthusiastic. Suddenly, I looked towards the entry, and there he was. He came lunging towards us. He was in his mid-40s, I guess. Both ladies were holding my arms. The creep said to me in our language to move away, but I didn't know what to do. I then reassured the ladies that they wouldn't get hurt, even though I was only 14 years old. The man grabbed both of their arms and assaulted them. I couldn't see the pain of the women. This is when the idea struck me. I had a kit bag in which I carried 4 rackets made of graphite. The man wasn't looking at me at the moment, and then I felt the urge to do something. I pulled out one of my rackets and shoved it towards his head. He then let go of the women and fell to the ground. He looked at me with that killer anger. I began to hit him 4 more times until he was unconscious. We kept our heavy bag on his face and left at the next station and called the cops. They appeared in no time and caught the man who was trying to leave at the next station. It turned out that one of the women had made a video of him for evidence. It also turned out that the guy was also arrested twice for harassment. I was feeling as if I was a hero. I also noticed I had went way past my destination. Both the women thanked me and kissed me on the cheek. I saw the man being carried away by the police, still staring at us. The police gave my bag and called my parents. They even rewarded me. The time was 11:30. I was looking for my parents when they came and hugged me. The woman told me that they were heading back to the country just the day after. They kept telling my parents that what kind of hero I was. The next day, I saw in the newspaper that the event could have been much worse, as the guy had evil intentions. If it were not for me, I suppose, nobody would have been there to help the innocent women. My parents told me that I was not allowed to come home by the metro again that night. I still vividly remember the evil stare of that creep.
My mother is mentally ill. She's diagnosed bipolar and paranoid schizophrenic. That said, she wasn't officially diagnosed until I was 13, which was when the story takes place. Even before this incident, it was clear that she wasn't in her right mind. Her paranoia was religious in nature, and not surprisingly, she was an evangelical Christian. I'm not bashing them, it's just that they can be one of the more extreme versions of Christianity. From all accounts, her illness did not begin until I was 5, around the time that she had lost both parents within a month of each other. My parents got divorced when I was 9, and her illness was so clear that they actually gave my dad custody, which was unusual as the courts tended to favor the mother back then. After the divorce, she took a turn for the worst. She had a large walk-in closet in her new apartment, and she covered the walls and floor to ceiling in scriptures written on construction paper. She called it her prayer closet. We would spend hours in that closet praying. I spent hours locked in that closet as punishment for transgressions, real or imagined. She began to tell me when I was 9 years old that the devil had planned to get me pregnant. I think I can best sum up the situation by comparing her behavior to the behavior of the mother in the movie Carrie. Now on to the actual story. Her visitation had been every other weekend and weeknight on the off weekends. But when I was 12, I was legally able to decide whether I wanted to go over there for the visitation or not, and I had stopped going for regular visitations. I did still see her occasionally and receive phone calls from her, so it wasn't strange when, one Friday night, that technically should have been her weekend, she called me up to beg me to come over. I had already told her that I wasn't going to come and visit that weekend. I had made plans to spend the night with a friend. She begged me repeatedly, telling me that there was something very important that she needed to talk to me about, but I was firm and told her that I had plans with a friend and that I wasn't going to cancel. I said that maybe I would come over the next day, Saturday. She refused to accept no as my answer, and I ended up hanging up on her and eventually had to take the phone off the hook because she kept calling back. The next day we received a call from the local hospital telling us, my dad and I, that we were listed as my mother's next of kin, and that she had been admitted to the psych ward. She wanted us to go to her apartment to pick up some personal items and bring them to her. I said we would. We arrived at her apartment and found a garbage bag sitting outside her door, which was not strange in and of itself. What was a little strange was the picture fragment of me that had apparently fallen out of the bag. That was what made me open the bag. My dad and I were shocked to find that the garbage was full of me. Pictures from albums, school papers, and projects she saved. Things that I had made or brought her. As complicated as my relationship had been with her, I was devastated. We went in the apartment and just stared. It was completely trashed, just a larger version of what the trash bag outside had held. Literally everything that had anything to do with me was destroyed and strewn around her whole apartment. There was nothing to do but collect the requested items and wait to see if the doctor at the hospital could shed any light on this bizarre scene. In the process of gathering her things, I found a more current photo of myself, and it was by far the most disturbing thing about the situation. It was a large school photo, and she had scratched my eyes and mouth out. There was also a large knife stuck in the middle of my chest, pinning the picture to the dresser. It was embedded in the wood. We left, and when we arrived at the hospital, we were called in by her attending psych doctor. He explained that she had been brought in by an ambulance the night before after the police had been called by several neighbors, reporting a woman banging on their door and begging them to help her in the name of Jesus because the devil was going to kill her. When the police arrived, they found her praying hysterically, holding a butcher's knife. She had found some random unlocked car and had locked herself in it. The doctor said that she wasn't making a lot of sense when she had arrived, and they had to give her a sedative as well as an antipsychotic. Between what the doctor told us and what my now properly medicated mother told me when I visited with her later, here's what I pieced together. God said that I made a pact with Satan, and if I stole her soul for him, he would have not impregnated me. He told her to perform an exorcism on me. Satan was in my heart, and to release me, she would need to open my heart. But once it was made clear to her that I wasn't coming over that night, an angel would come and instructed her to destroy everything that had anything to do with me. It also told her that in my absence it might be possible to perform the exorcism using a particular picture instead. He told her to destroy the eyes and mouth so that I, and Satan, couldn't see her or speak to her. Then to use the knife to, you guessed it, open my heart. This had made Satan angry, and he sent demons to her apartment, so she had to run out to find help. I'm glad that in the end the incident did actually lead her to help that she so desperately needed. I am a female, 17 years of age. I'm very petite, weighing about 100 pounds, standing at 5'3". I recently joined my local gym around January of 2019 and have started a routine of when I go to work out. I go every day except Monday around 6 p.m. and stay for an hour or two depending on the day. Anyone who goes to the gym on a regular basis notices others around them and gets familiar with what times and machines others like to work out on. And if a new person comes, you usually will notice. My point is that you get used to these people being in the gym with you, whether or not you communicate with them. As a girl who goes to the gym, from my experience, you will get the occasional glance from a weirdo or make awkward eye contact with someone staring at you in the mirror. What all you can do for that is stare back at them dead in the eyes and give the nastiest look of disgust. Now, the time that I go to the gym is about when everyone starts to leave. I am very antisocial and shy, so this works out great for me, or so I had thought. I also figured having some alone time would be nice, and if something were to happen, they have cameras everywhere. Stupid way to think, I know, but knowing that you have to have a keycard to get into the gym and one to get out was somewhat of a comfort, along with the cameras. For this last month of me doing my workouts, I got this weird vibe from this one random guy who we'll call Randy. And like I said, you usually get people looking at you, so it's hard to tell if someone is truly a great threat or just someone being a creep. Either way, both are bad things, but it's difficult to distinguish the two. I told my mom about this Randy guy because my gut was telling me something and I felt I needed some advice. She told me we should tell the manager and have them kick him out. But me, being naive and nice, I didn't want to kick a guy out for just giving me the creeps, and I didn't think it was a good argument at the time. I started to notice some of the other girls weren't coming as regularly as they would. I brushed this off, thinking that they either had work or were out of town. None of my business, I know, but it was something to take note of. The staff at my gym leaves around 6:30, and I started to notice that Randy was coming in almost exactly when the manager and staff would leave. I didn't pay too much attention to this, as he could just be a regular person trying to work out at a specific time due to his job or something. Huge mistake. The reason for me trying to rationalize this was because I constantly saw Randy, so I considered him to be one of the regulars. Now this is where the story actually begins. I went to do my daily workout, and the manager, let's call her Alyssa, came up and talked to me about some of the other girls who worked out at the same time I did. Apparently these girls filed a complaint about Randy secretly recording them while they worked out. The girls changed their workout schedule due to Randy, which explains why I saw less of them. She asked me if I had seen any man holding their phone up to their chest and walking with the camera pointing outwards, and I said no, but I told Alyssa about how this random man, Randy, was starting to creep me out, and she said that she would look into it and keep me updated on the situation, especially since I'm underage. The next day, Alyssa talked to me and said that one of the girls who complained about him pointed him out on their cameras, and that she was going to wait for Randy to come into the gym and kick him out. I left that night, not knowing what happened because Alyssa was still waiting after I left. I came back to the gym the next Tuesday, and Alyssa told me everything that had gone down. She had said that she waited till Randy and his buddy, who we'll call Kyle, came to the gym and were parked outside. Alyssa had a friend who was a sheriff and looked Randy's license plate up, and to both of their surprise, he was a registered offender and had been put on probation. Alyssa then found out that Randy didn't even have a key card, meaning he was not a member at my gym and shouldn't have been using the gym, period. His friend Kyle had a key card and was letting Randy in, and they would work out at the same time and wait for the staff to leave. Alyssa prohibited both men from entering the gym again and kicked them out. The scary thing is that I remember being alone in that gym with these two guys very often. They blended in very well, and I considered them a normal workout person I saw constantly. I'm still not sure if I was recorded by Randy or Kyle, but Alyssa told me that she was going to look through the footage and let me know of any other news, such as him recording me not knowing. It's terrifying to think that I got accustomed, you could say, with these guys being at the gym so regularly. I'm so thankful that Alyssa kept me informed on the situation. As terrifying as it is, it just shows you that you should always be aware of what's going on around you and trust your instincts. It also shows to never trust anyone you think you might know. As stupid as it sounds, it's easy to get comfy with people we see every day, even if we don't know them. But who knows what might have happened if I caught Randy and Kyle alone again. Please be careful and cautious at all times. Never judge anyone to be a good or bad person until you know them. You never know who might be out there to hurt you when you least expect it.